Hey everyone, Draco Prime 220 here, and this is going to be a request video for a YouTuber by the name of FreeSpace99, and he asked me about what if Zipp became the alicorn and not Sunny. That actually got me thinking. I said I was going to do this video in a day or two, but I started to get in some massive inspiration and ideas. So, if you are a fan of Zipp, and you're curious to hear my thoughts on this, and once again, this is for you, FreeSpace99, as you requested, this is it. What if Zipp became the alicorn instead of Sunny? Now, I'm going to throw you a big curveball here. What if everything in A New Generation happened, but slight changes here and there? Mainly where the story takes place, who it revolves around, and who the villain is. Or the antagonistic force, villain, whatever you wish to call it. Now, keep in mind, pretty much everyone meets everyone in a similar way, but things are going to have to change. Now, before I get into that, why would Zipp make a good alicorn? Or a little bit better than Sunny, as FreeSpace99 was curious about? Well, Zipp was the second most curious pony wanting to know about Equestria's past and Opaline, due to her detective skills, and also the fact that she didn't want to be a princess at all. She didn't want to be a queen. She wants to explore Equestria, find out what happened, why magic went away. And also, she believes in honesty. And the proof of that is that she is living a lie in A New Generation. They're all on wires and lighting, making the illusion of flight, that only royals can fly. Now, Zipp does not like that. She also has shown to be a very smart, intelligent, and intellectual pony. Also, very graceful, very athletic, knows a lot of, pony parkour, and also, let's keep in mind, if she was to become the alicorn instead of Sunny, this would not be the first Pegasus to become an alicorn, either by ascension or dark magic. For example, Cozy Glow became an alicorn due to the evil magic of Grogar's Bell, and Cadence was originally a Pegasus, both in the Tales of the Crystal Empire and the Rise of Cadence. Canon-wise, she was a Pegasus, and she ascended into an alicorn. So that also would be very interesting, having a main My Little Pony character becoming an alicorn that is a Pegasus. But also, she doesn't believe in lies. She's only going through with it because for the best of the kingdom, and so not to disappoint her family. But you can tell throughout the movie she doesn't want to live the lie anymore. And who could blame her? Let me tell you, if I had a pair of wings and I couldn't fly, and I had to live my life saying, oh, we royals can fly, we're the only ones that can, we're basically the ones giving the beacon of hope to our kingdom, and it's all a lie. It's all a bunch of baloney, pretty much. That would really nag at me, too, to the point where I don't want to live the lie anymore. But, also, Pegasi, according to the play for Heartswarming, Commander Hurricane, who is portrayed by Rainbow Dash, says that Pegasi are a proud warrior race. So, even though Zipp does not have any actual combat experience, instinctively, between her speed, her agility, her parkour skills, and a bit of offense and defense instinctively, I think she'd make a pretty good alicorn, and with a little bit of training and a little bit of practice with magic, she'd be a force to reckon with. Like Sunny with her alicorn power, she relies on a shield. Defense is her best offense against a offensive attack. But Zipp, I could see using mainly speed and agility, and also her some offense and defense. I could see Zipp using a mixture of offensive maneuvers, defensive maneuvers, also brute force when needed. But I think Zipp, being how fast she can be, I really can see her using her speed and agility and parkour skills to outmaneuver an opponent. Now, this is where I am going to throw a massive curveball at you all. Now to get to that. Basically, a new generation would have to be totally different in some ways. Since we're focusing on a different character, a different location, but all the locations would stay the same. And the ponies would still meet each other. Sunny, Izzy, Hitch, Pip, and Zipp would all meet each other. But who would the antagonist be? Or should I say the villain? I actually would bring in Opaline. Yes, I would actually bring Opaline in, and second of all, Misty would also be part of this as she was a very unwilling servant, even because she was promised a cutie mark. That's pretty much the only reason why she's doing it, and the fact that she got taken in by Opaline. Her character would pretty much stay the same, but the one thing I would use is the unused concept that the crystals were in each pony's dominion, but slowly fading away. Magic was slowly fading. By this time, but instead of us focusing on Sunny and her father, we'd be focusing on a young Zipp and Pip with Queen Haven and her husband. And he would be called King... let me think. That's the only one thing I didn't think of. Who would the father be? I do know I would want him to be very regal, noble, very kind, loving to his family. Queen Haven would pretty much stay the same way, but the father, I really think, would be King Solaris. King Solaris. Solar IS, Solaris. And he tells the story of the Pegasi and how all the ponies got along, and how one day magic just ended up slowly fading away, and the more it fades, he even says maybe he can feel it. He can feel maybe his wings are not working as they should. And in an act of desperation for his family, for his people, he decides to venture out and try and find what happened to the magic and how to preserve it and bring it back. But he doesn't return, leading to a similar scene of Zipp and Pip waking up. Pip is all happy. She's a pop star by this point. She's a streamer and everything like she is in the original movie and show. And Zipp, of course, is not really the happiest right now. One, she misses her father. One, she is sick of living a lie, because ever since he left and magic is slowly dwindling from the crystals, she would be like, what are we gonna do when all the magic goes away? What's gonna happen? How are we gonna tell the ponies that we can't fly anymore? And every other Pegasi is gonna start feeling the effects at some point. But of course, we go through the sisterly bond, and also, I really think if Zipp became the alicorn and we were focusing it on her being her story, her having a sister, I think would up things, like emotionally, up the ante emotionally, and show how these sisters don't really see eye to eye on certain things. Pip is just living the good life, trying to be carefree as possible, and Zipp is trying to be logical and realistic, and saying, we're going to probably lose magic soon. And it's not only affecting the Pegasi Kingdom, Bridalwood and Maritime Bay are feeling the same effects. But this does not go unnoticed. In a very eerie castle on a distant cliffside, with a tree embedded in it, we meet our crazy Roman candle with delusions of grandeur, Opaline Arcana, who is desperately trying to retrieve the magic, and she too can also sense the magic that it's slowly fading. So she figures this is the best opportunity while the ponies are vulnerable, they're getting weaker magic-wise, is to make her move, and she's going to use the magic to make a portal from her castle to get to where she has to go. This, of course, leads to Misty's part in this. Misty, being the unwilling participant, is told, gain the trust of the ponies, gain the trust of the Pegasi. And here I would have stories of the Pegasi and unicorns and earth ponies, but I wouldn't make it to the point of, like, they're monsters or they're going to eat your brains or fry your brains or eat your young or anything. It's just that because what I would happen is that there are stories about how Pegasi have very bizarre powers, earth pony are very strong, and Pegasi, the stories would be very, like Chinese whispers, pretty much. This would lead to a similar scene where Misty is walking through the fog-like chasm that leads to Zephyr Heights. Zipp stumbles upon her, and Misty portrays herself as a lost unicorn, doesn't know where home is. And I would think having Zipp being a little cautious and like, she would feel like she would help Misty, but she'd be like, something's off. And that's also why I think Zipp would make a good alicorn. She's very intellectual. She follows her gut instincts. And in the show Make Your Mark, her suspicion and her interrogation, some people were like, back off from Misty, because Misty does not really want to do this, but in fear and in hope of getting a cutie mark, she's doing this. But her suspicious nature towards Misty wasn't unwarranted. It was completely warranted because Misty was in the wrong for what she was doing. But as we know in the show, Misty actually came to her senses and did the right thing. But throughout the movie, similar things would happen where magic is slowly starting to fade, and Sunny would actually be the secondary protagonist we would follow. It would mainly be Zipp's story. Throughout, we go through similar beats of the story, but slightly changed. Opaline is trying to make her moves. The first crystal she would take would be the Earth Pony crystal, which would lead, and of course maybe an Earth Pony, Sprout. Sprout would play a influential antagonistic role where he sees a cloaked unicorn, which we know who is the alicorn Opaline, taking the Earth Pony crystal, and she takes off. And he starts spreading that a unicorn has come and taken the crystal, believing they are getting ready to attack the Earth Ponies. And I really think that would, Sprout would not be, the way he was in the movie. Now, look, I don't mind Ken Jeong. He's actually a funny guy. He's been in a lot of movies. He is funny. He's a funny guy. But Sprout, I was like, he is a mama's boy type of villain where he is really tries to be menacing, but he comes off childish. And that kind of makes him a little bit more dangerous because he's just willing to do what he wants to do just to please his mom, no matter who gets hurt. Like, at one point, in the original movie, Alphabet almost got run over. So, but Sprout in this version would be kind of like, he's trying to spread fear. He's a fearmonger, but he's not going by off a lie. He's going only by what he saw. But throughout the movie, Sunny is another one who wants to find out what happened to magic. And here's one thing I would do. The Pegasi crystal. Now, here's the thing. Each crystal would have a message. Now, before the events that Opaline comes to Maritime Bay to steal the Earth Pony crystal, instead of Twilight making an appearance, Applejack would actually appear as a magical hologram, warning that a great danger will come back someday, and that you gotta believe in the truth, you gotta protect the magic, you gotta do what's right, even if people think what you're doing is wrong. And then, of course, I would have at least 3 holograms. One of Applejack for the Earth Pony crystal. The Unicorn crystal would be, I would be torn between Starlight Glimmer or Rarity. If I had to go with someone who has vast magical knowledge, and probably at that time when Opaline was rampaging in ancient Equestria, I'd say Starlight Glimmer would be the hologram of the Unicorn crystal, telling that friendship is a great thing. She would briefly bring up how she did not believe in friendship and how Twilight Sparkle ultimately showed her the right way and to go out in the world and find friends, which Starlight Glimmer was told to do by Twilight. Go out and find some friends, make some new friends. And finally, the Pegasus crystal would be a hologram of Rainbow Dash, telling that do not lie, be loyal to those who care for you and who you care for. It would be like a message to give like the encouragement, the little push that these ponies need to bring themselves together. Now, here's the thing. When the crystals are combined, Twilight Sparkle would show up. A hologram first would show up of Twilight, where she's saying how Opaline tried taking the magic, similar to the message in Make Your Mark, but the one thing they wouldn't cut out here and there. It would be a full-on message of, like, telling future generations of the problem that is coming their way. Of course, there'd be a lot of songs. Zipp and Pip, of course, having their antics as sisters, but Zipp would go on a journey to try, because the Earth Pony crystal was taken, then the Unicorn crystal was taken, and they're blaming, Earth Ponies are blaming the Unicorns are blaming the Pegasi, which is leading to absolute chaos, which would give Opaline golden opportunity to steal the Pegasi crystal. But throughout this movie, Misty would be getting to know these new ponies and seeing them as friends, and not wanting to go through with the plan. And of course, Misty would try and tell Opaline she doesn't want to do this, but Opaline, being who she was, honestly would say, if you want a cutie mark, you'll do as I say. I'm telling you, Opaline was the Mother Gothel of MOP, and you can't convince me otherwise. But this would lead to, now the showdown with Zipp, the ponies would, we would have a group of Earth ponies led by Sprout, and actually a group of unicorns led by Alphabeetle come into Zephyr Heights because their magic is draining even faster than ever. Pegasi are starting to lose their flight, and this is where Zipp, they're all confronting Queen Haven, what is going on with our wings? We can't really fly that good. Zipp, I think, would kind of just would step forward and say, we're losing our magic. We may not be able to fly much longer. And of course, this would lead to some conflict with Pip. Pip would not agree with this. Haven would be, I think, utterly bewildered that Zipp did that. And she'd be like, Zipp, why did you do that? And she would say, I'm sick of living in this lie. I'm sick of living this lie that everyone is confident that we'll keep our magic, but we're losing it. And she would say that Dad would not want this. Dad would want us to be honest with our people and our kingdom. And now we got two groups of ponies thinking that who are advancing on Zephyr Heights. And of course, Opaline, this would all be to her advantage because she would want to get all the crystals in one place so she can just grab them and go. This would lead to Opaline revealing herself and pretty much leading to a very different but a lot more epic confrontation. Basically, it would be a intense version of Keep Away, because Zipp is realizing magic is fading fast. Opaline is preying upon the fears and resentment and disharmony of the ponies. Zipp, Pip, Hitch, Sunny, and Izzy are all trying to, fix this and get magic to stay, but before they get the crystal, Misty grabs it, leading to the instant distrust and suspiciousness of Zipp. And this would lead to Zipp actually getting a hold of the crystal, and Misty would be like, I didn't want to do this. And then Zipp would be like, then why are you doing this? Please help us stop Opaline. But Misty would be hesitant and just say, I can't. She promised me a cutie mark, and she was the only one that took me in when I lost my family. And I could see Zipp for a brief moment being kind of like, oh, You're not doing this out of evil. You're doing this out of kind of like loyalty and something was promised to you. But, of course, Misty would, due to her nervous nature, she'd drop the crystal, Zipp would catch it, grab it, and maybe Opaline gets fed up with Misty's bumbling, and Misty is told to go through the portal and go back to the castle, and we'll talk about this later. This would lead to an intense scene of keep away, keeping the crystal away from Opaline. Opaline, of course, would be using her magic to blast pretty much everything in sight, trying to get to the crystal. Now, here's where things would get a little intense. Zipp actually has the crystal, and as she's flying near this one part of her castle, Opaline blasts the side, causing a massive explosion, actually having Zipp crash to the ground, dropping the crystal. And I'd actually have where Opaline levitates Zipp and says, "You really think a feeble Pegasi like yourself can defeat me? Look at me. You can never beat a fire alicorn." And I'd have it to where she kind of tosses Zipp aside, and the ponies and Pip actually stand in between Opaline and the crystal, and she laughs and says, I can remove all of you with ease. Magic will be mine. And I could see where Zipp says that it's not the magic that needs to be brought back. It's harmony. It's us. We can choose lies. We can choose disharmony. We could choose separation and fear. Or we can choose harmony, family, and friendship and love. That's the true magic. Then it would lead into a similar alicorn transformation with Zipp, leading to a brief magic duel, Zipp being new to this, but using her instinctual speed and agility and parkour to outmaneuver and tire out the fire alicorn. This is where the crystals would combine. Of course, they're combined at this point, but then she would use her magic, her newfound power, to cause the portal. She would actually open a portal and make a twister to suck Opaline in, similar to how Hercules did in the 1997 film, where he used the Tornado Titan to suck all the other Titans in and toss them away into the stars. But instead of the stars, Zipp would cause a tornado that would actually suck Opaline into the portal that she opened and sealing it up, which would lead into Make Your Mark. I could see so much potential with Zipp being an alicorn, and it was actually thanks to Free Space 99 that this video is possible. And once again, this is for him. This is a request he made, so I was happy to oblige. And it was actually thanks to him, he gave me a ton of inspiration, and I had all these thoughts starting to come up in my head, and I said I was going to do this video in a day or two, but inspiration will do something, will do amazing things, won't it? But once again, Zipp, I think, would make a good alicorn. She could have been a good one if Sunny was not originally the intention. But that's basically a big what if she was. And she had so many good positive traits, her inquisitive nature, her seeking of knowledge of the past and what happened. Zipp would make a good alicorn. But, and now here's another quick little what if before I wrap this up. What if there was an episode in either Make Your Mark or Tell Your Tale where Sunny was out of commission and she could transfer her alicorn powers to a pony of her choosing for a temporary time? And what if she chose Zipp to have the powers of the alicorn? Can you imagine if Opaline saw that Sunny was able to transfer her alicorn powers to some other pony? I could tell you what, Opaline would be raising hell seeing that. She'd be frothing at the mouth, all kinds of ticked off. So, yeah, that would have been a kind of cool episode, but things went the way they did. But this is a interesting what if, thanks to Free Space 99 once again. So, this is for you, man. This video's for you. So, I hope you see it. I hope you enjoy it. And until next time, I am Draco Prime 220, signing off. Good night, everyone, and be safe.